It was the dead of winter when Sarah Whitmore found herself standing in the middle of a frozen clearing, staring at something she never thought she'd see, a dying bear. The massive creature lay motionless, its fur matted with snow, and its once powerful frame now limp and lifeless. Sarah, a wildlife enthusiast who had spent years volunteering at animal rescue centers, had never faced a situation like this. Her breath hung in the frigid air as she approached the bear, her heart pounding in her chest. The bear, a grizzly, had clearly been suffering. Its body was weak, its breathing shallow. It was dying, and Sarah had no idea how it had gotten this far into the forest. She had heard rumors of a bear in distress, but seeing it up close, knowing the animal's life was slipping away, was an entirely different reality. Was it too late to help? The question ran through her mind as she knelt down beside the creature, her fingers brushing against its thick fur. She could see the scratches on its body, marks of a struggle, perhaps an encounter with a hunter or some other threat in the wild. There was no way of knowing, but one thing was clear. This bear needed help. But the bear wasn't just any animal, it was a wild bear. And wild animals didn't always take kindly to human intervention. Sarah's heart raced with a mix of fear and determination. She had saved countless animals in her time, but this was different. This bear was bigger, stronger, and the stakes were higher. As Sarah knelt down beside the animal, she felt a sudden surge of desperation. If she didn't act now, it would be too late. She reached for her phone, dialing the emergency wildlife rescue number. But deep down, she knew the closest rescue team was miles away, and time was running out. Could she save this bear on her own? Was it even possible? Just as she was about to give up, she heard a faint noise, a soft growl. Her heart skipped a beat as the bear's eyes flickered open. It was alive, but barely. The moment of relief was short-lived, however. The bear's breathing grew more labored, its body twitching with every shallow breath. Sarah's mind raced as she looked around, trying to think of something, anything, that could save this creature. She had always been a problem solver, but this was something she had never trained for. A life-or-death situation with no clear path forward. With trembling hands, she reached into her backpack and pulled out the first aid kit she always carried with her during her forest treks. Her fingers worked quickly, applying bandages to the bear's wounds, hoping she could stabilize it long enough for help to arrive. But deep down, she knew this was more than just a physical injury. The bear was exhausted, malnourished, and weakened by whatever ordeal it had been through. As she worked, Sarah felt a strange connection to the bear. She could feel its desperation, its fight for survival. She wasn't just saving it out of duty. She was saving it because it mattered, because every living creature deserved the chance to survive. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the bear's breathing began to slow, becoming more steady. Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. It wasn't over yet, but the bear was still alive. She had done it. At that moment, Sarah knew something incredible had just begun. This was only the beginning of the story, a story that would take her down an unexpected path of trust, survival, and a bond she couldn't have imagined. 2 years later, Sarah would look back at this moment as the moment her life changed forever. The day she saved a bear's life, not knowing the profound impact it would have on both of them. 2 years had passed since Sarah Whitmore had saved the dying bear from the cold, frozen wilderness of the forest. What had started as an act of desperation had turned into a life-altering bond, one that neither she nor the bear could have ever expected. But now, standing in the same forest where she had found the bear, Sarah knew that their paths were about to cross again in the most unbelievable way. The bear, whom she had named Kodiak, had recovered under her care, gradually regaining his strength. His initial injuries had been treated, and after weeks of nursing him back to health, Sarah had been able to return him to the wild. It had been one of the most difficult decisions she had ever made, letting go of the animal she had saved, allowing him to return to the wild where he truly belonged. Yet despite the months that had passed, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to their story than just a rescue. She had spent countless hours reflecting on the bond she had shared with Kodiak, how his survival had mirrored her own, how she had fought alongside him, just as he had fought to stay alive. It was a connection that went beyond human and animal. It was a bond forged in survival, in compassion, in shared vulnerability. As Sarah wandered deeper into the woods that day, a sense of unease crept up her spine. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth, the quiet stillness of the forest almost suffocating. She had come here to find a rare flower, but something told her that today would not be an ordinary trek. Her heart pounded as she heard a rustling in the trees ahead. Her thoughts raced. Was it Kodiak? Had he returned to the area after all this time? It was highly unlikely. Bears didn't typically venture back to the same spots after being released into the wild. But the thought was enough to quicken her pulse. She had heard stories of wild animals recognizing those who had helped them, and for a moment, Sarah wondered if the stories were true. The rustling grew louder, closer. She instinctively reached for the walking stick in her hand, ready for anything. Then out of the trees emerged a figure. At first, Sarah's eyes couldn't quite focus. The figure was massive, larger than any bear she had ever seen. Her heart skipped a beat as the realization struck her. It was Kodiak. He was even bigger than she remembered, his fur thick and rich, his muscles rippling beneath his coat. But what took Sarah's breath away was the look in his eyes, the unmistakable recognition. The wild creature who had once been near death was now standing before her, not with aggression or fear, but with a sense of calm that Sarah couldn't explain. Kodiak took a few slow steps toward her, his massive frame almost silent in the thick underbrush. Sarah stood frozen, unsure of what to do. She had let him go, thinking she would never see him again. Yet here he was, standing before her like no time had passed. The bear stopped just a few feet away, his eyes never leaving hers. And then, to Sarah's amazement, Kodiak did something no one could have predicted. He lowered his head, a clear sign of submission and recognition. He nudged her gently with his massive nose, just as he had done that fateful day when she first saved him. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Tears filled her eyes as she reached out, almost instinctively, to stroke his fur. She hadn't realized how much she had missed him, how much the bond between them had left an indelible mark on her heart. But the moment of reunion wasn't just about shared memories. It was about something more profound. Kodiak wasn't just a wild animal. He was a creature that had defied all odds, had trusted Sarah when no one else would, and now he was showing her the depth of that trust. "You came back," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. It felt surreal, but there was no mistaking the truth in front of her. Kodiak remained still, his body relaxed now, the tension that had once consumed him gone. He had returned to her not just because she had saved him, but because they had shared something deeper, an unspoken bond formed through survival and trust. As Sarah reached out once more, Kodiak let her touch his fur, this time allowing her a moment of connection. This was more than a reunion. It was the culmination of a story that had begun with fear and desperation, but had transformed into something extraordinary. In that moment, Sarah knew that the bond they shared could never be broken, no matter the distance or the years that passed. Kodiak had come back to her, not just as a wild animal she had saved, but as a living testament to the power of compassion and connection. Sarah had saved his life, but in return, Kodiak had shown her something that would stay with her forever. That true bonds, those forged in survival, in kindness, could transcend even the wildest of creatures.